Hi guys and welcome. Today's lesson today is considered about introduction to the graph parallel. One of the important subjects in data science. So if you are interested, come and continue listening to the subject. First of all, with graph we have to consider to use something called GraphX. So what is a GraphX? Is processing the libraries built into the Apache Spark. And GraphX uses the concept of the property graph, which is directed multigraph in combination. Combination of the Spark Resilient Distribution Data Concept, or called RDD. Now we need to know what the difference between, we have two types. We have data parallel and we have graph parallel. Each one they have got different format, different things, but both of them they deal with data. Now let's know what is data parallel, what is a graph parallel. Data parallel analyze systems such as Hadoop, Spark, Spark, and focusing on distribution data across the multiple nodes and system. So like this, we have tables and rows, and these tables and rows will give me specific result, and this is called data parallel. But in the same way, we have something called graph parallel. A graph parallel system such as Pregel, GraphLab and Apache Graph. These tab and gonna be look like this, is like a graph. Let's go more depth about the subject data parallel versus graph parallel. What is that in generating? This is a generating programming model which be how to be extracted transformation and loaded raw data as initial graph. How be able to go to the data parallel and go to the tables and transfer these tables into the graph. How we done that? We go through the initial graph, and this is initial graph will be transfer these raw data to the initial graph. Then later on we'll go to the GraphLab with uses algorithm such as this slide graph subgraph will use algorithms such as PageRank to compute computation these graph and to make it processes much better. Then after that we're gonna be reached to the final stage, but this stage is called analyzed and can be done. These analyze the data can be done by HIVE. Now this is a process. These process may be repeated again, but this repetition depended on the data. For any changing of the data, these will be automatically changing these repetition data from initial graph to the end to analyze these data in the end. Okay, now we go more. We need to know data parallel, graph parallel. When we do work with it, we use something called GraphX. So the GraphX addresses the problem by unifying data parallel and the graph parallel method into one unified library. How I can put these together, the data parallel, the tables, rows, columns, with the graph tables, and how to put this one I can use with GraphX, and as well I can use Pregel, GraphLab and Apache Graph. These will be allow me to work with these data more clearly. Now let's go more depth about the components of GraphX property or property graph. So in graph components we have to look graph. We have directional graph completed to the with the property attached. So the property graphs are constructed using vertices, edge and troubles. So we have vertices, edge and troubles. So the vertices that the dot or the nodes, these one are the node that we see. So this is the vertices 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So we have 8 dots with the blue color, and we have this is vertices. It should be maybe has got specific, each one they have got specific name, each one they have got specific ID, each one they have got specific details that is completely different from each other. But Then we see in the graph we have that called the arrows. We have these arrows between these vertices, and these arrows, it represented the relationship between these vertices. So we have this edge and these vertices, and this is represented the relationship. So if you look, for example, for that one, that will have go two relationships with another with these two arrows, but that will have with it another arrow. That will explain to me how to be content. Now let's go more depth to say what is the trouble. Finally, the trouble combining edge and vertices together. When I combine three edges together with them arrows, so the edge, the vertices and the edges, all of them, they represented to be something called troubles. Okay. For example, edge has access to the vertex ID, but not attribute, then that contain edge relationships. So we'll be show the relationships between that and that. Even maybe they have got the similar name, the similar some details, but with the ID they have go different from vertices to the another. Okay. For example, let's go for example. For example, if I have go the Twitter. Now when you go to the Twitter and say, okay, follow me, the Twitter will contain information about you, about the person who has the account, and it provide a unique ID, unique address, and as well they provide the account holder. How many names, if you can be the similar around the world on Twitter, they share the same name. For example, if I say John, how many Twitter name with John around all the world? That it doesn't matter with the similarity of the name, but the difference is between these different Twitter account is the ID. Now that the Twitter user can be follow the activity of another Twitter users. So when we do one of the Twitter, for example, John, he follow another Twitter James, then in this case that will be able to follow all the details, all the videos, all the images that save it on the James Twitter, because that will called the GraphX will called how much these data together. In a trouble content, the follow and the account information, it will be follow and shows, and this is what called the trouble one. This is the end of the part 1 for introduction to GraphX. If you have any questions, please email me or please send it, put it in the comment. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for listening.